VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society.
Welcome to the African News on Voice of the People Television. I am David Edwin. Before we begin the news, we would urge you to kindly visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending stories. We begin the African news from Algeria, where fresh tensions flared between France and Algeria on Monday, as the French foreign minister said its former colony had asked 12 French officials to leave in 48 hours. The announcement was linked to the arrest of 3 Algerian nationals in France, and according to Jean-Noël Barrot, for decades, ties between France and Algeria have gone through diplomatic upheavals. Monday's announcement comes at a delicate time in relations and shows the difficulties in repairing ties. Barrot asked Algerian authorities to abandon the expulsion measures, adding that if the decision to send back French officials is maintained, France will have no other choice but to respond immediately. The 12 include some members of the French Interior Ministry. A diplomatic person did say Barrot had already visited Algeria earlier this month on a fence-mending trip after months of tension that had brought the two countries to the brink of a diplomatic breakdown. Meanwhile, in early March 2025, satellite imagery revealed a significant development in the global arms trade. Russia has redirected at least 5 Sukhoi Su-35 fighter jets originally intended for Egypt to Algeria. The transfer captured in images showing a Russian AN-124 transport aircraft moving the jet from Komsomolsk on Amur in Russia's far east to Aybida air base in northeastern Algeria, marking a new chapter in Russia's defense relationship and raises questions about the evolving balance of power in North Africa. This move, confirmed by the International Institute for Strategic Studies, that's the IISS, on April the 8th, 2025, underscores Russia's effort to maintain influence in key markets despite international pressures and highlights Algeria's ambition to bolster its military capabilities. The transfer began to unfold when satellite images dated March the 2nd, 2025, showed a disassembled Su-35 painted in a camouflage scheme consistent with an earlier Egyptian order being loaded onto an AN-124 at Komsomolsk Amur, the production hub of Sukhoi aircrafts. Moving on, Sudan has accused the United Arab Emirates at the United Nations Top Court of violating the Genocide Convention by supporting paramilitary forces in East Darfur region. A genocide is being committed against the ethnic group of the Masalit in the west of our country. Sudan's acting Justice Minister Muawai Osman told the International Court of Justice, also known as the World Court. He alleged that a genocide was being carried out by the paramilitary rapid support forces with the support and complicity of the United Arab Emirates. Sudan last month filed a case against the UAE at the court for allegedly arming the RSF, an accusation that the UAE has repeatedly denied. The UAE reiterated its rejection of Sudan's accusation, calling them baseless and politically driven, adding that it supports neither side in the Sudanese civil war and that there is no evidence to support Sudan's claims. In its statement to the court, it questioned the ICJ's jurisdiction over the matter. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa on Monday announced former Deputy Finance Minister Magbisi Jonas as a special envoy to the United States. Jonas is currently independent, non-executive chairman of telecommunications company MTN Group, a role he will continue to hold alongside the envoy position. In a statement, Ramaphosa's office said Jonas was entrusted with the responsibility to advance South Africa's diplomatic, trade, and bilateral priorities. It added that he will lead negotiations, foster strategic partnership, and engage with the U.S. government officials and private sector leaders to promote the nation's interest. Relations between South Africa and the United States have suffered badly since U.S. President Donald Trump's return to the White House in January. The U.S. has cut financial aid to South Africa, citing disapproval of its land reform policies and its genocide case against Washington's ally, Israel, at the International Court of Justice, and expelled South Africa's ambassador last month. Still talking South Africa, a South African court has begun a fresh inquest into the death of one of the most renowned campaigners against the racist system of apartheid, which had initially been described as accidental. A 1967 inquest ruled that Chief Albert Luthuli was walking on a railway line when he was struck by a train and died after fracturing his skull. Activists and his family have long cast doubt on the official versions of events and have said they welcome the reopening of the inquest. Luthuli, who at the time of his death was the leader of the then banned African National Congress, that's the ANC, won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1960 for spearheading the fight against apartheid. The ANC went on to lead the struggle against white minority rule and came to power in 1994 following the democratic elections. In a bold and strongly worded, the umbrella body of all bar association in West African region, that's WABA, in a statement signed by its Secretary General, Additional Adebite, was demanding urgent action over systemic abuse in Guinea-Bissau. The press release, which was disseminated in English, French, and Portuguese to ensure wide accessibility across the region, documents a disturbing pattern of oppression allegedly orchestrated by the country's leadership. WABA's statement highlights targeted attacks on the judiciary, the legal profession, and opposition voices with specific concern over the persecution of lawyers, the forced eviction of the Bar Association from its headquarters, and threats to its president, Januario Pedro Correa. The association calls for immediate international intervention, including from ECOWAS, the African Union, and the United Nations. Well, joining us now to make sense of these stories and more is Barrister Darlington Agumo, who is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst and a barrister by law. Barrister, a very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, David. How are you today?
I'm fine, very well, thank you. How are you doing, Barrister?
I'm okay.
Well, interestingly, Barrister, we are coming to a forte that has to do with you, but of course, disturbing situations in Guinea-Bissau. The umbrella body of the All Bar Association in West African region has made a bold statement saying that there are rights that are being abused in Guinea-Bissau, and of course calling for the UN, the AU, and of course ECOWAS to do something about it. again, this statement, of course, is a general statement by the body, but of course was signed by the Secretary General. I'm talking about the Nigerian, what's his name again? I'm trying to, Adegbite, yes. He's made that statement. But first, let me ask you, from your position, oppression by leadership of a country, practically because opposition is voicing their grievances about how things are being done in the country. Do you think it is worthy enough for the leadership of a country to want to clamp down on opposition using all of the means that they can, including treasonable felony, like we find in Nigeria?
Yeah, David, you know, when you have a bad government, this is what comes with it. They don't like opposition. They don't like dissenting voices. And they don't like a civil rights organization to criticize them or disagree with them or whatever they are doing. So it comes with it, bad leadership. Unfortunately, it has now come to the domain of lawyers. You know, lawyers.
Right.
And they don't have a coercive power to checkmate governments. It is the government that have the police, the army, and other security agencies to muzzle down anybody in the country. That's the advantage they have. But I think that something should be done. Is either the lawyers in this country boycott the courts.
Okay.
Yes, they should. I don't know why they are not using
Does that look like a legal angle that they can use,
of course,
to really make their grievances
of course,
known?
because yes, when your organization is being threatened, it means that you are being threatened too. Don't say because my country is not involved or the government. No. When your organization is threatened in one particular country, then don't wait until it spread around.
Okay.
Start action so that the other government will be on their toes. Imagine what will happen if West African Bar Association,
Yes.
if all the lawyers in this organization were to go on strike for at least 1 week, my dear, it will shake all the countries involved.
But isn't that an advantage to countries that these kind of oppressions are found? Isn't that an advantage for them? Because they have cases in court. One of such is Nigeria, where Serap is being bold about talking about the state of emergency declaration in Rivers State. Wouldn't that be an advantage to the part of the oppressors if the lawyers should possibly boycott the courts?
My dear, you forgot that there are other cases going on in courts that involve government. There are other things that the government is doing with the courts. All those things will be standstill.
Okay.
Have you forgotten? The revenue they are generating from the courts will not be there for that 1 week. Do you know how many cases are being filed in court on daily basis?
It has to do with the state itself.
Who collects this revenue? Is it not the government? So they are not in any advantage, or rather, the bad image, the opprobrium, what's it called? The name of those countries will be there on the international scene. It might even attract sanction against them by international organizations or countries. So there's no way it will be to their own advantage. Rather, it will bring infamy to them.
Now, Barrister, looking at the fact that, yes, the lawyers at this point, the West African region of the Bar Association in West Africa, have made this clarion call to the UN, of course, to African Union, and to ECOWAS. Some persons have said that even the judiciary in Nigeria, as it stands, is not as solid as what it's supposed to be, because it's been infiltrated with some of the bad eggs. Again, is that going to maybe have an effect if there is a declaration like telling the lawyers to leave the court? Would that be effective on that kind of decision?
Why not? Every responsible organization has an in-house mechanism to discipline their members. The lawyers are one of those organizations. They have disciplined erring judicial officers.
Hmm.
You know, we have seen cases like that, especially in Nigeria. So the organization or the umbrella organization have an in-house mechanism. As long as you bring their conduct, their misconduct to their notice, you know, if you have an MBA now, like in Nigeria,
Yes.
and the lawyer misbehaved, maybe he took money, he didn't represent you well, he went to court, and you know, you report to MBA, they will call the lawyer and say, come, on so day, your client so thing, what happened? And if he could not explain himself properly, he will be sanctioned.
Okay. Now, as it stands, Barrister, this call by the Association for Immediate Intervention, would it in any way get answers as soon as it can? Would the African Union or even ECOWAS want to maybe react to these kind of calls?
You know, the government are almost the same.
Where I was going exactly.
Yeah, they are almost the same, so they may not be too quick in reacting. It is the international organization, the international body that will help with their cause by, you know, bringing pressure on this government. In fact, by the time they will place sanction on government officials,
Right.
it will help to, you know, tone down things.
And maybe, just as it stands, there might be some conversation between the government of Guinea-Bissau, where this situation has really, really escalated in its highest level. But let's move from there on to another story, Barrister. South Africa's president has named Jonas as the new, a lot of persons have said he's about the new messiah that might want to make things happen between the Trump administration and South Africa. I'm talking about Bessie Jonas, minister, former deputy minister, finance minister in South Africa. As, of course, he is going to take that position as a special envoy to the United States. Do you think the government of Donald Trump might want to listen to him? Even though, yes, he's a businessman as well, who's done well for himself with telecommunication giant MTN, do you think that the Donald Trump administration, with all that they have against South Africa from their perspective as well, do you think he's going to be listened to?
In international diplomacy, it's a game of give and take. No country wins it all.
Right.
And discussion is the tool of the game. No matter what disagreement countries may have, they will always sit down and talk. It is your ability to present a good case that will determine how far the discussion will go. You know, it's a question of South Africa presenting their own position, and then maybe Trump and his own people listening to such position and say, okay, based on so. I mean, at the end of the day, because no country is an island. No countries, and no matter how big you are, you still need even smaller countries, more than you need bigger countries. So whatever relationship they have as South Africa and US, they will continue because there is a strong tie. The whites in South Africa are their kids and kin.
Okay.
And they will not abandon them. So for their sake, this may tone down.
Interesting. But for trade and bilateral priorities, is there also the possibility that Donald Trump might maybe take off the sanctions from South Africa, just like he's placed on them?
It is a question of making him understand that the land issue.
Yes.
It's a question of balancing. Nobody took away any land from whites. They are just saying, look, let us rationalize this so that you don't take everything and link the black with nothing. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump is so unreasonable to say, no, give the whites every land. And that's the position of South Africa.
So definitely this would spawn out to be a matter of good negotiations between the both parties.
Exactly. Because from afar, Donald Trump may not know exactly what's going on. But when you come closer and then have a discussion with valid evidence, they will tone down.
Okay.
Because apartheid is dead and gone. So nobody would want to bring it back.
All right, let's move from there, Barrister, because of time, to another conversation. Interestingly, Sudan has accused the UAE of being complicit and supported genocide, and of course has taken them to the World Court. First, I'm going to ask, what's your position with the fact that Sudan is being bold enough to want to take the UAE to the World Court on evidences that they also gathered from their end? And of course, you would be aware that the UAE has denied any wrongdoing in any of these accusations.
I am surprised that the UAE is getting involved in such a behavior. I don't know what they are gaining. Are they saying that Sudan cannot handle their own matter? Why are they supporting genocide? Anyway, if Sudan has a very good evidence, they should go to where they are going. And there will be sanctions at the end of the day. Yes, because to support genocide is a serious crime against humanity. Nobody will smile at it at all. So UAE had better be careful, because it will affect the tourism sector that the UAE is known for. You know, that is a heaven for tourists.
Right.
If they are not seen to be supporting certain, most people will shy away from UAE, and that will affect their economy and revenue.
Now, Barrister, looking at the fact that, yes, the Sudanese government had declared that they've uncovered that the UAE was supporting the paramilitary support forces that has been causing major chaos in Darfur in Sudan. A lot of persons have said, as it stands, what would then be the political interface of the UAE to the outside world if these findings were to be true at the very end?
Look, the ICJ is not a customary court. You know, if you are going there, you must go with facts.
Right.
So I think Sudan has enough facts for them to have taken to that option. They did not even start talking of diplomatic retaliation, no. They went to that court straight. That means they are going with evidence. And it's not enough for UAE to say there's nothing like that. No, they should go and answer. Because this time they are saying now that ICJ have no jurisdiction. Then who should have adjudicated on the matter? Who? Which court? ICJ is for interstate matter.
Yes.
So I don't see why they should be talking of that.
Let's look at the position of let's look at the position of the UAE, saying that that particular accusation is baseless and is politically driven. What is the gain for Sudan to say such a major accusation like that is politically driven, Barrister?
But nobody agrees that he has committed an offense. So. As it is with ordinary human beings, so it is with states. When you accuse them, the first thing is to deny. It is not left for you who is alleging to prove. To prove, yes. So I don't want to discountenance what Sudan is saying. The onus is on UAE now to go and defend themselves at the ICJ. That's all. Because if you begin to rationalize who is right and who is wrong, the matter will not go anywhere until you present your file before the court. And then you present your defense. Then they will now see whether truly you are complicit. And then the appropriate sanction will be given.
Okay. Now let's look at the position of the South Sudanese government, clearly stating that they have evidences over the fact that the UAE was complicit in all of its supports to the paramilitary rapid support forces. Barrister, what is to gain on the part of South Sudan? For instance, if they were truly involved in this particular allegation that was placed on them?
Look, I have told you here that for South Sudan to go to ICJ, they have evidence and facts. Because they can't just go there and be, talking propaganda and gossip. No?
Right.
So it is not left for UAE to go there And not to sit down at home and dismiss it as nothing, or to say that ICJ have no jurisdiction. If they say ICJ have no jurisdiction, then who? Let them tell us who else should have a jurisdiction over the matter.
What was the gain? If, for instance, the UAE was involved, what was the gain for them in that kind of act, supporting the paramilitary rapid support forces against a government, a sitting government in Sudan? What was the gain for them? Mineral resource, power control? What exactly could have been the gain for them?
Nothing goes for nothing. There must be something that was discussed. After all, somebody contacted UAE. UAE did not just enter the fray on their own. Somebody must have contacted them, and then they agreed on terms. I'm sure something has changed hands. So as long as they have not said it, then we can only speculate. But I know that nothing is free, even in Freetown. When America was supporting Ukraine against Russia, you never knew, you thought it was a free lunch. Is it not now that we are hearing that over $350 billion worth of arms and ammunition has been shipped to Ukraine?
Yes.
And now they cannot pay. So Donald Trump is descending on their mineral resources. So, I mean, is it not this negotiation that brought out all that transpired? When these arms were being shipped to Ukraine, everybody thought it was free. No, it cannot be free. It cannot be free. So there is something UAE must have been gaining from South Sudan for them to, from the rapid response force that they are supporting. They believe that maybe when these people will have upper hand, when they win, then there will be party. You know, they will come for sharing the booty and all that.
Oh, well.
That's one of the aims of supporting such rebel groups. The end result, which is who will win. And then when you win, we are going to share the booty.
Well, again, we'll definitely keep our eyes on this conversation as they progress. But Barrister, before I let you go, interestingly, Algeria is giving 12 French embassies officials 48 hours to leave the country. And of course, this has been going on for a while now, when the French government did had a major situation in their country. But then let's look at the fact that French colonies are practically going against them in its largest form. What's your position in all of this, Barrister? Because if this consistently happens, it simply might be that France is going to be losing her grip on some parts of Africa that they've held for quite a while, Barrister.
If I were France, I will change my policy against my colonies. If not, they will wake up one morning and discover that no single African nation is now under their umbrella.
So this has to do with policy? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the policy of France against their colony is very bad, very, very bad. And you see all these French countries, they are not even developed as they should, unlike Anglophone countries. So they are aware of what is going on. And with what happened with Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali,
yes,
it has given other African nations the temerity, the audacity to challenge France. And they will continue. That's the truth. They will continue until France either change their policy or they will leave them completely. And I wonder what will happen to France if they lose all their colonies.
Oh, well, that's another major question there. But then, when you say France should change their policies against their colony, Barrister, even with the policies, these countries have presidents.
They agree to that policy now. I mean, when you say colonial interest, the policy of assimilation, that is even the driving force. That's what they used to gain independence, and they accepted it. So unless you change it or you move away from it, it continues to exist. You need to say, look, you see this policy, just like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger said. Yeah, you have to abandon it completely. That's the only way you'll be free from it. But as long as you are under their colony, you must abide by the policy.
How difficult is it to change these policies, Barrister?
Sorry?
How difficult is it to change the policies that you're talking about on the part of France? Because
that is what they use to give independence to these African nations. But The policy is on paper. In reality, it is not so. They use it to deceive them into believing that they are French citizens. That's just the major this in there, but it's a deceit. It's a deceit. They use it assimilating you into French culture and all that. That was the aim, but in reality, it is not so. These people have their own distinct culture and tradition, all these African nations. So why will you tell me that I'm a Frenchman when I'm an African man? You use it to deceive me into accepting your colonial interests. Now that I've grown up, am I not supposed to say, no, I don't want you again? That's what is going on. That's what we continue to go on.
Now that they've grown up, Barrister, just like you said a couple of seconds ago, is there the possibility that, as it stands, Emmanuel Macron might be having not a good sleep because of these kind of developments in some of their colonized countries?
He's having heat now in France. Emmanuel Macron is under fire in France because this thing is affecting the economy of France as I talk to you now.
Well, Barrister, with the economy of France being affected, Emmanuel Macron is going to Egypt to support the rebuild of Gaza, Barrister.
He's looking for something now. Who told you that it's for free? He's looking for something. Who told you that rebuilding Gaza is a free lunch? I told you, nobody gives you anything free. He wants to be part of it because there is something coming to France. Technology, manpower, resources and all that. They will deploy it in Gaza and you pay for it. That's what they are going there for.
Okay.
They are going to gain. After all, they didn't ask you to start war with Israel.
Oh, well, that's a given on its own. But then again, as it stands, Barrister, Emmanuel Macron is, like you said, is having it hard. And of course, he's feeling the heat presently with some of his colony. But then, with the relationship dwindling in Algeria and France, is there a possibility that Emmanuel Macron might be fine visiting Algeria in the nearer days?
It depends on what their envoy will come out with. After the envoy has finished his tour and nothing came out, maybe the man may equally try to go there. Because Algeria is one of their topmost colonies. I remember the war in Algeria, how difficult it was. Even, what was that his name now? That's their French leader, de Gaulle or so.
Yeah.
It was becoming difficult. They had to bring him out to go and, stop some insurrection there. So it's one of the colonies they wouldn't want to lose for whatever reason.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Based on its economic gains and all of that.
Yes, they wouldn't want to, But whether France like it or not, they need to change their policy or else they wake up one morning and discover that all the French colonies in Africa are gone.
Oh, well, this is where we have to draw the curtain on the analysis segment of the African News this beautiful afternoon. We've been talking with Barrister Darlington Agumo, who is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst and a barrister by law. Once again, Barrister, thank you so very much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
The rest of the African News will continue shortly, just after this quick break. Do stay with us. Glad to have you back. It is still the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. Now to more stories. A court in Mauritius has granted bail to a former finance minister charged with fraud over alleged embezzlement at a state-owned company, his lawyer and the Financial Crimes Commission said on Monday. Renganaden Padeyachi and former central bank governor Havish Sengolam were arrested and charged last week over the reported embezzlement of 300 million Mauritius rupees, that's about $6.7 million from the Mauritius Investment Corporation set up to help companies deal with impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Pandayashi and Sigolam have both denied wrongdoings. Sigolam was freed on bail last week. On Monday, the court granted Pandayashi bail after the Financial Crimes Commission said it did not oppose his release. A commission spokesperson did say. Raouf Gubol, Pandayashi's lawyer, welcomed the court's decision. The government of Prime Minister Navin Rangolam, who won power in the November election, has accused the previous administration under which the two former officials served of falsifying data on economic growth, the budget deficit, and public debt for years. Moving on, Brice Oligui Nguema, who led a coup in Gabon in August 2023, won Saturday's presidential election with 90.35% of votes casted, according to provisional results. The Central African country's interior minister said on Sunday. The result cements Nguema's grip on power 19 months after the coup ended more than half a century of rule by the Bongo family in Gabon, an oil-producing nation with a population of around 2.5 million persons. Nguema's most prominent opponent in the 8th candidate race was Alain Claude Biliba Nze, who was serving as prime minister under President Ali Bongo at the time of the coup. Nze, 57, finished with 3.02% of the total, according to provisional results announced. Campaigning in a baseball cap bearing his "We Build Together" slogan, Nguema pitched himself as a change agent cracking down on the corrupt old guard. He vowed to diversify the oil-reliant economy and promote agriculture, industry, and tourism in a country where a third of the population lives in poverty. Turnout was 70.40%, according to the Interior Ministry, far higher than 56.65% who cast ballots in the August 2023 election that precipitated the coup. Moving on, Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, that's the RSF, seized control of a major camp for displaced persons in North Darfur, the paramilitary group said on Sunday. After a 4-day assault, the government and aid groups have said left hundreds dead or wounded. The fighting was centered around the Zamzam camp, which, along with the nearby Abu Shouk camp, hosts some 700,000 persons displaced by Sudan's war. The assault has destroyed shelters, markets, and healthcare facilities, the group did say. The RSF said the camp was being used as a base by what it called machinery factions, but humanitarian groups denounced the assault as a targeted attack on vulnerable civilians, including women, children, and elderly people who were already facing famine. The Sudan Liberation Army, that's the LSA, the Darfur Militia allied to the National Army, has been fighting the RSF around the city of Al Fasher, around 15 kilometers, that's about 9.9 miles from Zamzam, with the help of other local armed groups. Tens of thousands of camp residents have fled to Al Fasher on foot, overwhelming shelters, and are now sleeping outdoors without food, water, or medicine. SLA spokesperson El Sadiq Ali El Noor said on Sunday. Moving on, the latest round of talks in Cairo to restore the defunct Gaza ceasefire and free Israeli hostages ended with no apparent breakthrough, Palestinian and Egyptian sources said on Monday. The sources said Hamas had struck to its position that any agreement must lead to an end to the war in Gaza. Israel, which restarted the military campaign in Gaza last month after a ceasefire agreed in January, unraveled, has said it will not end the war until Hamas is stamped out. The militant group has ruled out any proposal that it laid down its arms. But despite the fundamental disagreement, the sources said in Hamas, a delegation led by the group's chief, Gaza chief, Kali al-Hayya, had shown some flexibility over how many hostages it could free in return for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel, should a truce be extended. An Egyptian source said the latest proposal to extend the truce would see Hamas free an increased number of hostages. Israeli Minister Ziv Elkin, a member of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet, said on Monday that Israel was seeking the release of around 10 hostages, raised from previous Hamas consent to free 5. Moving on, the Ghana Armed Forces, that's the GAF, has commissioned 163 new officers from the regular career course intake 63 to commence their provincial military careers. The newly commissioned officials consist of 138 males and 25 females. They comprise 110 Army cadets, 28 Navy cadets, and 25 Air Force cadets, who completed an intensive 18 months military training program designed for enlisted cadets with special qualifications. They are professionals from tertiary institutions across the country. You're still watching the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. More stories in business and sports after this quick break. Just stay with us. Glad to have you back. It is still the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. Now to some business stories. South Africa beverage company owner Ndumiso Mandlala, the impending value-added tax hike could spell trouble for his small-scale business that makes alcohol a ginger beer and non-alcoholic drink. The National Treasury plans to raise VAT by 1% point over 2 years from May the 1st as part of measures to bolster government revenue. Currently, VAT is set at 15%. The VAT increase comes as the South African company faces several headwinds, including a slow recovery following years of unstable electricity supply, domestic political tension, and global trade wars. Until recently, power cuts had been a drag on South Africa's economic growth for more than a decade, escalating costs for business as they resorted to alternative energy resources like diesel-run generator. Still talking business, SpaceX Starlink satellite system is now available in Somalia. Owner Elon Musk wrote on social media platform X on Sunday, while a Somali government official confirmed the company has been given a license to operate in the country. In a video on Sunday, Mustafa Yassin, Director of Communications in the Telecommunications Ministry, said Somalia had been in talks with Starlink for a period of 2.5 years. He confirmed that the company was given license yesterday. He expressed the hope that Starlink will increase the quality of the existing internet in Somalia and will make the internet service reach remote areas. And to wrap up the African news, we'll go straight to some sports stories. Kenya's junior national team faced another daunting test at the 2025 Under-20 African Cup of Nations after being drawn into a tricky Group B alongside Nigeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. The Confederation of African Football (CAF) conducted a fresh draw following the withdrawal of Cote d'Ivoire as tournament host. Egypt was subsequently named the new host nation, prompting CAF to reassign them a Group A and reshuffle the group. Still talking sports, the iconic experience of completing a Panini Stickler album during major tournaments has been a cherished tradition for football fans worldwide. Now in a groundbreaking development, Egypt's Al Ahly FC has become the first Middle East club to be featured in the renowned Panini sticker collection, marking a significant milestone in the club's global expansion. This historic partnership places Al Ahly alongside the most prestigious clubs in the world football, dramatically increasing their international visibility among the passionate community of sticker collectors. The collaboration represents a strategic move in Al Ahly's growing commercial ambition, extending their reach beyond the Middle East and North Africa region into established global markets. In an increasingly globalized football landscape, Al Ahly Football Company has embarked on a comprehensive professionalization of its operation. This transformation began with their participation in their first FIFA Club World Cup and continues with strategic partnership with major international brands, expansion of licenses and merchandise opportunities, and concerted efforts to alleviate their profile in global media circles. And with that sports story, we've come to the end of African News right here on Voice of the People Television. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we are at Voice of the People TV, and on all other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. Thank you so very much for being a part of this broadcast. I am David Edwin. Do have a good afternoon.